Hello, Mr. Simmons. Should I call
Hello.
you JK or
JK works. Yeah, absolutely.
well, it's lovely to meet you. I was really looking forward to this and congratulations on this latest movie of yours.
Thank you.
I understand your wife is the director. I was reading her director's statement and, she was saying this movie is ultimately, a movie about love and the strength of family. And I understand for you, behind the scenes, this is a family production in many ways. Do you feel like because of that, this project is that much more meaningful at the end of the day?
Yeah, absolutely. It's that synchronicity of making a film that's on its face, this thriller and this sort of scary ride through overnight in the woods with my psychopathic character. But ultimately, yeah, it is a film about the strength of the human spirit and of family love and all that, and to be able to do it with my wife, who co-wrote with her friend Carolyn Carpenter, who directed the movie. Her brother was our producer, our sole producer. Our daughter Olivia is in the film, and our son Joe did the entire score for the movie. So it really not only was it a really satisfying creative adventure, but it obviously brings out the proud papa and the proud husband of I mean, it was a little germ in the her mind, whatever, 4 or 5 years ago when she first came up with the idea, and now we're ready to share it with an audience.
Well, yeah, that's great. I can't wait for everyone else to see it. And yeah, it's a wild ride. And I was curious, yeah, like you said, Michelle's co-writer in addition to director, going home with her at the end of, the workday every day. I was curious, did the movie end up, sort of becoming your life for a while, or were you able to sort of shut it off, when production wrapped for the day, when you both went home kind of thing?
Well, I mean, as always for me, now having two things: having done this for as long as I've done it, and the other thing, having never branched out into any of the grown-up responsibilities of writing, directing, producing. For me, it's pretty easy to shake it off at the end of the day and go home, or go back to the hotel on location as we were with this movie, and just hang around and be, the husband or the dad or the friend, or, whatever we're doing. For Michelle, as the writer director, she goes home or back to the hotel and she starts to prep for the following day's work. And, so it's definitely an all-consuming thing for, producers, directors, and, some of the creatives on the crew. But for me, I'm able to just leave work at work and be myself.
Start bugging her about what's for dinner after and all that. Just,
There was none of that going on. Certainly, on location or at home, I at least try to be an adult in that sense.
of course,
Provide.
of course. I hope I would be that person too, well, that's great. Yeah. And, this movie, I loved it. I thought, the performances, I thought everyone was wonderful. The music, your daughter's
Thanks.
supporting performance, everyone was great. And I liked how sort of in the middle of the movie, there was like that little break where we get a little peek into your character's sort of backstory. And I was curious, during filming, were there conversations with Michelle about those scenes? Were you concerned about them, or do you wish there were more? No spoilers, of course, but I was curious how that went for you.
Well, that was a debate that she and Carolyn were having, as they were writing this, fictitious story. Is it is it more interesting to just never know what where this guy's coming from, why he snapped, or has he always just been a dangerous psychopath? And which I actually, theoretically kind of found more interesting, and I was, not that I was a part of the writing process, but she would talk to me about it. And then when they did decide to tell the story in a not 100% linear way, I just found the way that she conceived that and executed it to be really brilliant and insightful and informative and kind of more scary in a way. And I don't want to give away any more of
Of
it.
course, of course, of course. But yes, and no spoilers here, but yes, I like how and then it sort of came full circle in that climactic sort of final scene where he's kind of hinting at things. So
Yeah.
yeah, I thought it was, yeah, all in all, just a great end result. And yeah, that was great.
Thanks.
Um, yeah. And I was curious, 5 years ago, you played Claus, in one of the great modern Christmas movies. And, I hear you're playing Santa again in an upcoming movie called Red One. And I was curious, while I have you, is there anything you'd like to share about that movie? If there's anything you're particularly excited about or something like
Well, yeah, I mean, that was, first of all, Klaus was a really fun animated gig, which is very different from making an independent film like You Can't Run Forever, or a, studio tentpole like Red One with Dwayne Johnson and Chris Evans, and just so many, big actors. I mean, it was one of those things that's both a treat and kind of intimidating, because so many great actors have done their takes, and writers, and have done their takes on Santa Claus, and this was, I hope, a new and fresh one, and I'm really looking forward to audiences seeing that in the fall.
No, that's great. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. I'm a sucker for Christmas movies, so that's great.
That's
And
going to be a good one.
yeah, well, that's great. That's awesome. And I also, you've been in so many, Spider-Man movies, and Marvel continues to churn out all these, you're talking about studio movies. I was curious if you had any thoughts about the future of, the whole superhero realm in terms of cinema and what direction it's heading. If you had any thoughts on that, I know it's forever going to be a hot topic. So,
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Again, I'm not one of the grown-ups. I just read the scripts, and decide what I want to do, which is a beautiful thing. I I do feel like, I don't know how far you can go with amping up the stakes for the superhero movies. Just generally speaking, I mean, after you've killed trillions of souls in some of these movies, I often find it most interesting when movies, whether they're big movies or independent films, when the stakes need to be elevated, but they don't need to be expanded
right.
always, and the closeness of the high stakes, like a mother and her daughter in You Can't Run Forever,
Yeah.
or I find to be the most compelling, regardless of the scope of the overall movie.
I agree. And I was just gonna, you beat me to it because I feel like the stakes in You Can't Run Forever. I mean, I was chewing my fingernails. I feel like I was more stressed out in that movie than, any number of the kind of superhero movies I've seen recently. You can quote me on that.
Thank you.
But seriously, and,
Yeah,
and
no.
yeah. So I think that's a good point. And of course, you've worked with Michelle on, movies in the past. Did this particular experience, You Can't Run Forever, did sort of distinguish itself in any way, whether it was, where you shot or a particular approach that Michelle took or anything like that come to mind?
Uh, yeah, I mean, every shoot is unique, and then I mean, one of the significant differences between this and her previous film, I'm Not Here, that I was in, was that in this one, my character actually gets to speak, which was a significant difference, and obviously a very, very different character. She really enjoys, in her writing and her storytelling, and exploring different sides of humanity, the human condition that we find ourselves sharing on this planet, and they're both, while they're both you know entertaining films, and You Can't Run Forever is a, like you said, a sort of high stakes thriller. It's more about, to me, more importantly, about what we're all doing here on this planet, and people trying to love each other.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, well said. Is there I know this move technically You Can't Run Forever hasn't even officially been released yet to the masses, but are you already sort of thinking ahead, you and Michelle, about a future collaboration that you'd like to share about?
Yeah, she's got a few things in the hopper as a writer. Another script that she and Carolyn are working on currently. She's also written in the past, like on I'm Not Here with Tony Cummings, and they have scripts. So she's very much, and this is another difference between actors and filmmakers, right? Like I can go bing bang boom, oh, I finished this one, I'm going to go start that one on Monday. um, her mind needs to be with the film she's on currently. I feel like all the way through May 17th, when people are going to be seeing this in select theaters and video on demand, and she'll in earnest be developing the next couple of projects shortly after that. And I think there's always going to be some kind of part for me. I think actually, seriously, the role that she has in mind for me for the two projects that I know of that she's working on is more of a supporting part in a kind of an ensemble cast.
Cool. Cool. Well, yeah, hopefully she'll at least let you audition,
Right. Yeah, exactly. Which, by the way, our daughter actually did have to do for this one
Oh,
because
jeez.
when Michelle and Carolyn were writing it, they wrote that what was going to be a tiny little part for our daughter who was a sophomore in college,
Oh,
and and as they wrote, they found that character sort of organically becoming a more substantial role,
oh yeah.
and so Michelle Michelle said, "Well, you're going to have to audition for this," and she did a self tape. The casting director looked at it, didn't notice, that she was Michelle's daughter because Michelle's last name is Schumacher, and Olivia's
Oh
is
yeah.
Simmons, and so the casting director, as she always does, put the 13 people for each role who had submitted the self tape and in order from this is my favorite, what do you think? And coincidentally, Olivia was at the top of that list, so that was it was not pure nepotism.
Yeah. Well, like I said earlier, she was wonderful, and yeah, that I'm glad that that part evolved because that ended up being a very, she was, yeah, there all the way till the end, and yeah, I think she played a crucial part in that whole story. So
Yeah,
that's
thanks, man.
that's great. And your character, right? Especially when he's, just kind of wearing the t-shirt, all business and his own kind of villainous ways. I couldn't help but catch, Fletcher vibes, Whiplash, he's with the black t-shirt. Of course, wildly different circumstances, but I was curious when you're ever suited up like that, in that sort of demeanor, do you ever find yourself like, oh yeah, I kind of look like Fletcher, or this kind of reminds me of that role I played in that movie X amount of years ago, anything like that?
I think sometimes with first of all, I never watch playback or any of that,
Okay.
and don't spend too much time, admiring myself in the mirror in the trailer. Although there are always mirrors everywhere, and
Oh
there are
yeah.
many. Um, but when you've got as many films and TV shows and even plays, back in the days on your resume as I have, it's like the similarities are there, with almost every character you do. And at the end of the day, I'm a bald white guy. What are you going to do? I mean, I'm.
Oh no. Well, I get it. I understand. I understand your point. I beg to differ, but no, but and also I just wanted to mention I love speaking of Fletcher, the movie that landed you your Oscar, well deserved. I loved your Oscars speech. I was watching it live, call your parents. We have Mother's Day just a couple days away. I thought that was a very inspiring little end to your acceptance speech. And I was curious if you had any other sort of tips, whether for the general public or any other aspiring actors out there. Or I think a lot of people watched that speech and probably picked up the phone and called their parents. So.
Well, I actually did hear lots of stories about that happening, and some of them, people I knew, and lots total strangers, and some of them really, you know, profound about people who'd been estranged, and because some random character actor wearing a tuxedo said, "Call your mom, call your dad," they actually did. So I didn't really have a speech written for that event, and I just knew what I wanted to talk about, which was family and love and what's most important. And I was able to use my 44 and a half seconds to talk about Michelle and our kids and my parents and what's important to all of us. And yeah, it was a great way for me to take advantage of the biggest audience that I'll ever have and try to say something that I thought was important.
Of
So
course.
yeah, tell your mom it's Mother's Day or it's close to Mother's Day.
I will. You can hold me to that. Is there something you're keeping busy with at the moment you'd like to share about? Are you on location somewhere or anything like that?
No, I'm actually we're all four of us, Michelle and the kids are here in New York. Olivia's about to knock wood, about to graduate from acting school. Joe is a year and a half past his graduation from NYU, and we're blessed to be able to be talking about You Can't Run Forever and excited for the opening of that. And then we're taking a family trip, and then I'm getting back to work on the next thing.
Of course. Do you know which project you're sinking your teeth into next? Or maybe you're
Um,
not allowed to share, but
I think I'm allowed to share. You know what? I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I got a few interesting things coming up this summer.
awesome. In the meantime, I can't wait for everyone to see You Can't Run Forever. And I hope we can do this on your next. I mean, I'm speaking to Michelle later today. I can't wait for that. And I hope we can all
Awesome.
speak on your next collaboration.
Thanks a lot.
Nice to meet you and take care. And good luck to your kids with the graduations and all that. Thank you, Emma. Bye.